All right, so today we're diving into cybersecurity in independent schools. We have some really interesting reports here. One's on government programs, another one's got this UK perspective, and then this one really digs into how independent schools are structured, like how they handle their tech and stuff. You hear that number, like 64% of schools got hit by ransomware last year, and you think, well, that's scary, but that's not going to happen to my school. But we're going to break down why that number is so high and why independent schools are actually really vulnerable. By the end of this deep dive, you'll be able to spot these cyber threats. And more importantly, you'll walk away with some practical stuff you can actually use to boost your own cybersecurity.
Definitely, it's important to be proactive.
So let's talk about the kinds of cyber threats independent schools are facing right now. Imagine this. It's Monday morning. Everyone's just getting back into the swing of things. And bam, the entire school network crashes. But this isn't just some random glitch. It's a full-on ransomware attack. The whole system's held hostage until someone coughs up a hefty sum. And this isn't some far-fetched scenario. This is the reality for a lot of schools. And independent schools with maybe not so tough security systems are prime targets.
Yeah, it's not even just about stealing data anymore, although schools are a treasure trove for that. Student records financial information, you name it. But cybercriminals are upping their game. Their tactics are getting more advanced. Take DDoS attacks, for example. Distributed denial of service. These attacks can completely overwhelm a school's network. No online learning, no communication systems, everything just grinds to a halt. And the scary part is they're not that hard to pull off. It's like flooding a building with so many requests that it just can't function. Except in this case, it's the school's network that's drowning.
It's like they're holding the school's digital infrastructure hostage. And we're not just talking about the financial hit of everything being down.
Absolutely not. It throws a wrench and learning disrupts everything. And it can really hurt a school's reputation. Schools, especially independent ones, they have to make tough choices about where the money goes. Cybersecurity, while important, isn't always top of the list. And that makes them vulnerable, especially compared to bigger institutions or companies that have their own cybersecurity teams.
It's that whole "it won't happen to me" mentality until it does. And it's not just these massive attacks either, right? There's also phishing scams, data breaches, those everyday threats that can slip through the cracks.
Exactly. Phishing especially is getting sneakier, especially with more and more schools using hybrid learning models. A simple email disguised as a school trip notice or a software update. And boom, someone clicks the link, their credentials are compromised, and it's open season.
So you've got this perfect storm brewing. Threats are evolving, systems are vulnerable, and schools are relying on technology more than ever. It's a lot to take in. Which brings us to the question of how schools are supposed to handle all the legal and regulatory stuff. I mean, you've got FERPA, GDPR, CCPA. It's enough to make your head spin.
You're telling me.
Right.
But getting a handle on these regulations is crucial. Let's start with FERPA. The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's all about keeping student educational records safe. So any school that handles this kind of data has to comply. Then you've got GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. That one casts a wider net. It's about data protection and privacy for everyone, not just students. And don't think for a second that it doesn't apply to you. The internet's global. So this European law can have implications even for schools across the pond.
It's like trying to hit a moving target. These regulations are always changing, and schools are left playing catch-up. But it's not just about avoiding fines, right? These regulations are there for a reason.
Absolutely. They protect sensitive information, ensure privacy, and hold institutions accountable. And what's interesting is we're seeing more localized approaches popping up too. Like California, they've got this law. It makes reporting cyber incidents mandatory. Schools can't brush these things under the rug anymore. And then you've got states like Alabama. They're putting their money where their mouth is. They're allocating funds specifically for boosting cybersecurity in schools. It's a step in the right direction. But the question is, how do these regulations actually translate into real change for independent schools, especially those with limited resources?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Knowing about the regulations is one thing, but actually putting those security measures in place, that takes expertise, resources, a whole lot of planning. It's like schools are being asked to build Fort Knox on a shoestring budget. So where do they even begin?
Well, it's really about building that culture of cybersecurity awareness from the ground up. It's about giving everyone in the school community the tools to be that first line of defense. Students, staff, even parents.
So less about building fortresses and more about training an army of cyber defenders.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of a cybersecurity social contract comes in. This idea that everyone has a role to play in making things safer online. Governments set the rules and provide some resources. Schools put those security measures in place and get everyone trained up. And then everyone else, from the tech team to the newest teacher, they need to know how to make smart decisions online.
Like that saying, it takes a village. But in this case, it's a village defending itself against hackers. But let's be real, even with the best intentions actually doing all of this, especially in an independent school with all its unique challenges, it can be overwhelming. So where do we even start? What are some concrete things schools can do to beef up their cybersecurity?
Well, the good news is these sources we've got lay out some really effective strategies. One of the big takeaways is that you need a multi-layered approach to security. Think of it like a castle. You wouldn't just rely on a moat to keep invaders outright. You'd have walls, archers, maybe even a dragon or
I
two.
just hope it doesn't come to dragons. But I get your point. Multiple layers of protection.
Exactly. You need that solid foundation of technical stuff. Firewalls, intrusion detection systems, the whole 9 yards. But it's not enough to just have them. You need to keep them updated and tested, like going for regular checkups. You don't wait till you're at death's door to see the doctor, right? Same goes for your digital infrastructure.
Regular security checkups are key. But even with the tightest security, human error can still slip in. That's where the human element comes in training and awareness.
Absolutely. Investing in cybersecurity training for your staff is non-negotiable. And I'm not just talking about the IT department. Everyone from teachers to admin staff needs to know the risks and how to avoid them. Phishing simulations, workshops on passwords, even just regular reminders about best practices, every little bit helps.
So it's about making cybersecurity everyone's responsibility, not just dumping it on the IT department.
Exactly. And here's another thing. Our sources emphasize the power of teamwork. Sharing information about threats, best practices, even resources. Especially within the independent school network. It can make a world of difference.
So like a cybersecurity network within the independent school world,
Yeah.
sharing knowledge resources, maybe even comparing notes on the latest phishing attempts.
Exactly, because let's face it, the hackers aren't working in isolation, so why should we? And this collaboration shouldn't stop at the school gates either. Partnering with cybersecurity experts, law enforcement, even software vendors, it can give you invaluable insights and support. It's about using everyone's knowledge and experience to stay ahead of the bad guys.
Okay, so we've got the technical defenses, the human firewall of a well-trained staff, and the power of collaboration. But even with all that, things can still go wrong. That's where incident response planning comes in. It's not just about preventing attacks. It's about knowing what to do when, not if, they happen.
Right. Minimizing the damage, getting things back up and running quickly and smoothly. One of our sources actually had this case study. A school managed to dodge a potentially disastrous ransomware attack because they had a solid incident response plan and they practiced it. They were able to isolate the infected systems really quickly so the malware couldn't spread, and they had backups ready to go so they could recover their data without too much disruption.
Like a fire drill for your digital world. Might seem like a pain, but when the alarm bells are ringing, you'll be glad you practiced.
Exactly. And a big part of that incident response plan is communication, not just internally, but with parents and the whole school community. Transparency is crucial. It builds trust and minimizes damage to the school's reputation.
So being upfront about what happened, what you're doing about it,
Hmm.
and what parents can do to protect themselves and their kids.
Exactly. It's about turning a crisis into an opportunity to educate everyone and give them the information they need. And that brings us to a really important point, the fact that cybersecurity is constantly changing. It's not a one and done deal. It's a constant process of adapting and improving.
That saying, the only constant is change. But in cybersecurity, that change is happening at lightning speed.
Great analogy, and it really highlights why continuous learning is so important. Schools need to stay updated on the latest threats, vulnerabilities, and best practices. They need to be ready to adjust their strategies and invest in ongoing training for their staff.
It's like playing chess against someone who keeps changing the rules.
Exactly, but here's the good news. Independent schools are actually really well placed to win this game. They're known for being adaptable and innovative, and that's exactly what you need in the world of cybersecurity.
So they've got the potential to drive, and now with these sources, the knowledge to really tackle this. But let's look ahead for a second. We've talked about the current dangers and how to fight them, but what does the future hold for cybersecurity in independent schools?
One of the biggest trends, and it's something that comes up in all our sources, is the growing role of technology in education itself. It's not just about having computers in the classroom anymore. It's about making technology a core part of how students learn. And as technology becomes integrated, cybersecurity has to keep pace.
It's like we're shifting from technology being a guest speaker to being a full-time faculty member. And just like any new faculty member, we need to make sure they understand the school's safety rules.
That's a great way to put it. We need to go beyond just adding cybersecurity as an afterthought and start building it into the design of educational technology from day one. That means thinking about security when you're choosing software vendors, making sure student data privacy is a top priority, and designing digital learning environments with security in mind.
So it's about building a culture of security by design,
Hmm.
where cybersecurity is woven into the very fabric of the school's technology. But it's not just about the tech itself, right? It's also about preparing students for a future where digital literacy and cybersecurity awareness aren't just optional, they're essential life skills.
Absolutely. Our sources point to a future where cybersecurity education isn't just stuck in a computer class. It's woven into the entire curriculum. Imagine students learning about online safety in social studies, exploring the ethics of AI in philosophy, even coding their own secure apps in computer science.
It's about raising a generation that's not just tech savvy, but cyber smart. Critical thinkers who know the risks are responsible online and can navigate the digital world safely and ethically. One thing that really jumped out at me from these sources was the issue of funding. We talked about meeting strong security measures, ongoing training, even a shift in how we think about cybersecurity, but all that takes money. And as we know, resources can be tight, especially for independent schools. So what's the answer? Are we down to bake sales and car washes to fund our cyber defenses?
Well, hopefully it won't come to that. But you're right, funding is essential. The good news is we are starting to see some progress. Remember that FCC pilot program, that $200 million investment? That's a big deal. And it shows that people are starting to understand how crucial this is. And it's not just at the federal level either. Lots of states are launching their own initiatives to help schools with cybersecurity.
So there's light at the end of the tunnel? It seems like the message is getting through. Cybersecurity in education isn't just an IT problem, it's everyone's problem.
Exactly. It's going to take all of us working together. Policymakers need to make funding a priority and create supportive regulations. Tech companies need to design products with security and privacy built in. Schools need to be proactive, invest in training and resources, and create a culture of cybersecurity awareness. And all of us need to take responsibility for our own online behavior and protect ourselves and our data.
It's a team effort for sure. It's about building a safer, more secure digital world for everyone, especially for the next generation who are inheriting this increasingly connected world. And on that note, it's time to wrap up our deep dive into cybersecurity in independent schools. We covered a lot of ground today, from the evolving threat landscape to the vital role of technology, and the need for a multi-layered proactive approach to cybersecurity. But most importantly, we looked at why this matters, not just for schools and educators, but for all of us. Because in today's digital world, cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue. It's crucial for creating a safer, more equitable, and more prosperous future for everyone. As always, we encourage you to check out the sources we talked about today. You can find them listed in the show notes. We hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and tools to navigate this challenging landscape and to become a champion for cybersecurity in your own community. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.